So, welcome everybody to our amazing panel today. I'm really, really excited. As you can tell, so are our amazing panelists. This is a Latin influencers, culture, commerce, and when influence becomes equity. So, I'm going to start off with myself, of course. My name is Jayla Sandoval. I will be moderating this beautiful panel today with a lot of our founding superstars from Cafe Cultura. We're very excited to have everyone here. A little bit about my background. I was media entertainment for almost 20 years. COVID hit. I did a huge pivot into tech. I'll give you guys the quick version. Did the quick pivot into tech. Started Cafe Cultura in 2021 with the goal of creating and building an ecosystem for underrepresented minorities and founders, giving people the one thing I felt I never had, which was options and opportunities. So we can build that community, unite, work together, help each other, and move forward. So I'm really excited to introduce to you my panel today. I'm going to introduce them by name first, and then I'm going to let Yadira start, and so she can introduce her background. So we have Yadira Diaz, founder of Gradable, Diana Contreras, founder of Siembra in the mental health space, Rafael Peña checks all your backgrounds, and Renee Trucios. And Renee just does it all. So let's just get into this. Thank you guys once again. Jadira, let's kick it off with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Amazing. Thank you, Jayla, and for the opportunity. I am so sorry if anyone hears background noise. I got stuck at this event and they started blasting reggaeton, but I guess it's kind of perfect for the situation. Latins in the house. So hi, everyone. My name is Yadira, and I'm the founder at Gradable. And we essentially are building a marketplace of innovative business solutions around waste, energy, and water reduction. So what we're doing is we're helping these organizations not only reduce their utility bills, because that's what happens when you reduce your waste, energy, and water, but we're also reducing their environmental impact. And so this marketplace just hit 250 solutions, different products, different services, different technologies, and we're just acting as matchmakers. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what we're building. Thank you, Jayla.
And next up, we have Diana Contreras from Siembra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Contreras. I am the founder and CEO of Siembra. And a little bit about me. So I actually started working as a behavior therapist right out of high school. And it is something that has grown in me. And regardless of not going to college for that, I stuck through it. And fast forward, here we are 12 years later as a behavior and mental health specialist. And my passion truly is just found me. I have this passion and this love for helping people, hearing them out. And then based on what you are going through, whatever you want to focus on, we create a plan for you. And so this has led me to the path of Siembra after 12 years of seeing, especially working with women, this constant, I would say complex, because a lot of people see it as complex for them to show up for themselves. But in reality, I always see it as it's a matter of prioritizing yourself. So Siembra is really here as of me building a platform, mobile application for people to really find a home for themselves, and especially as even whether you're a founder or just whoever you may be, like there is this epidemic, and I call it an epidemic because really like the amount of times that I see that we just forget about ourselves. And so that's really where my passion lies, getting people to show up for themselves and then building a plan and then getting results of we're going to do what you said you're going to do. So yeah, that's a little summary about my main passion.
And next we have Rafael Peña.
Hello, everyone. Everybody calls me Ralph. So former Marine Corps military police, who then became a banker, eventually rised up to the level of vice president of Bank of America Private Bank, where I led several different teams, amongst that compliance and due diligence, leading me to create a startup called WeCheck AI that finds your digital footprints for compliance investigators and HR departments, to surface anything on your social media and web presence that could be a red flag for hiring, investing in someone, or partnering with them. That's what we do. Oh, Jayla, I didn't hear you, Jayla. Are you muted?
You try
There
not
you
to make background noise, and then you forget you're muted for 5
go.
seconds.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we have Renee.
Hi, everyone. My name's Renee. I'm based out of San Francisco. I like to say that I'm just a regular guy, but there's a lot of titles that people have called me. People have called me the original vibe coder. People have called me the next Steve Jobs. But I can't read or write code, and I've won 200 different hackathons in San Francisco. I've built a lot of products, and currently I'm working on agencies, a way to help solopreneurs. Currently, there is 33 million SMBs in America. 20 million of those are solopreneurs, and solopreneurs cannot grow. So I'm building tools to help solopreneurs be able to grow and solve their cold start problem. Thank you.
Amazing. So as you guys can see, one of the big important parts of our community with Cafe Cultura is having a diverse background of everyone. And this panel for me is just a little example of what that is, having so many awesome people in so many spaces. So I thank you once again, guys, for being here. Let's kick it off. Very, very kind of simple. How is the lack of nuanced data historically misrepresented or erased from the Latin communities? Who wants to take that?
Can you repeat the question one more time? I don't think I heard it very well. My bad.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My ears are stupid.
How has the lack of nuanced data historically misrepresented or erased the Latin communities? I know Rafael has
I have a lot of opinions. I just don't know if I want it out there since I do web screening and I know how this data works. But like I've had my own personal like experiences with this, at least, you know, in the military and in just real life in general. And like in a world where, you know, our cultures, we know, are very different, and it's beautiful, which is why I love living in Miami, right? Like you got your Dominicans, they're one way, you got your Cubans, you know, I'm drinking my little cafecito right here. You know, you got your Peruvians, your Mexicans, and they all have their own beauty to them and their own culture to them. But you know, sometimes what happens is the data generalizes us into one bucket, right? And it's because they think that, you know, they maybe because of where their experience is. When I say they, I mean in the general population of the US. Like, I'll give you an example. You know, everybody thought, you know, I knew a lot about tacos and quesadillas, you know, when I was in burritos, right? But they don't know that for me, it's arroz y frijoles, right? And picadillo and croquetas, which like completely different from two sides, which there's nothing wrong with tacos and quesadillas and all that. But that's just like a simple example, right? And then the nuances between like our language, like some things that I say might seem different to someone from Colombia. And it's happened because in my team, I hire predominantly out of Latin America, Argentinians, Colombians. And there's sometimes that Cubans, you know, we like to say this famous word with the letter P. It's a bad word. I'm not going to say it here. And like we repeat this. And in Colombia, like I'll say it in a bad situation, like, and I'll say the word. And then like I'm over like some sort of meeting talking about, you know, something that's stressful. And then like one of my Colombian counterparts will be like, wait, doesn't that isn't that a good thing? Like when you say that word, doesn't that mean something good? Like no. On my side, that could be, you know, mean something when I'm stressed out or something. And so it's like you can already see that there's a difference. So what does that mean? That the data is still not there to really give an exact mirror as to like for each culture. And I think that's an opportunity, to be honest. And maybe whoever's out there who's a data scientist and, you know, wants to provide more depth to LLMs, I think that's a huge opportunity out there where like you can create data sets for each particular culture so that these LLMs can provide more depth about each culture, especially if someone's asking about how they should target certain cultures, etc. But that I will stop there because I know I can talk a lot.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have anything to add on?
Well, being a Miami local myself as well, I share a lot. I have my cafecito today, my coladita. But so I work in the behavior and mental health space, and I'm very fortunate that I work with a variety of Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas here. And it's so wonderful because this morning at 9 a.m., I started with a Dominican family, right? So it's different, the culture, the accent, even the way we perceive things. I remember that maybe the word guapa, they were like, oh, tú estás guapa. And I was like, oh, me, thank you. And then for them, it was like, oh, tú estás enojada. And I was like, oh, enojada. No. And it was because the sun was beaming on my face. So I was getting, my face was a little hot, I guess, turning a little pink. And she was like, tú estás guapa. And I was like, gracias. And so it's sometimes small little things like that that remind me, like, wow, like, yeah, we're all Hispanics under this big, I would say umbrella, but we all differentiate in so many ways. Like, there are so many similar meals and things we cook, but maybe we just change it up a little bit, because at the end of the day, despite being, this community, we all have our own different identity. Like, I know we have gallo pinto in Cuba, they have el moro, I want to say, right? So it's still the rice and beans cooked together, but there's just a little difference there. When you taste it, you know the difference, right? And I think this just applies to every area of our life. We can all come together, celebrate each other, our culture as a big community, I would say. But most importantly, we all can differentiate our own ways in so many different ways. So yeah, that's my take on it, and that's why I love Miami. I today I DR, then Colombia, and it's like, then after this I gotta go to Argentina as well. So I get to travel every day. So yeah, I'm really fascinated with our culture and how much we bring to the table. Or we actually brought the table.
We made it, we brought it, we cut down the tree. That leads me kind of to the next question, because there was a mix of different things that we kind of touched base on. So I'm going to try to break it down. Why is it that right now, right, it's a critical inflection point for the Latin cultural intelligence in tech and in media?
I think right now, and maybe I don't speak for everyone here because I think I have a little bit of a different background. I have Latin parents and stuff, and I never really ended up speaking Spanish. I didn't really get to grow up too much with the Latin community, and I've always felt kind of like an outcast. So what I think here is that tech allows us the opportunity to bridge places where we wouldn't normally get to in communities. And I think right now I'm very lucky, even like right here, where I may not have had this opportunity without tech because I'm not from Miami. And I think it's right now the only time you can do this from anywhere in the world. So if you're from Argentina, Chile, Guatemala, Colombia, wherever the hell you're from, you can make an impact today. And that's the only reason why you should start today.
I love it. So I guess the next question would be, why does it matter who controls the data that trains AI systems, and what happens to our cultural complexity, our stories, language, culture, when they aren't properly represented?
And that's who controls the narrative, basically, right? And it's like, just like history, who wrote history? And a lot of people say, like, history is his story. So, and they always say that, history is written by the victor. So sometimes there's multiple different perspective, and whoever won the war would write history. And the thing is, with LLMs, what's very interesting is, whoever is, you know providing that data is really kind of providing that whole narrative on those cultures. So I do think, like, again, I'm going to say it again, whoever's out there, a data scientist or whatever, and thinks that they could create great data sets to represent each culture, I think it could be very valuable. And I also think that right now is a great time because our culture, the Latin culture, is becoming so famous, so cool, like not as much as it was before. Like today, people are listening to our music and they're enjoying it and it's amazing. And I think now more than ever, we should really put it in their face, like, hey guys, we're also different in many different ways, and you should come and learn more about us. So yeah, I'm gonna pause there.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
can I piggyback? So just bouncing off of Renee's comment of, I mean, I was raised in Florida, so even though I came to Florida speaking Spanish, I like now my main tongue is English, and I was going to mention Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl was a huge cultural move. And, for me, I used to walk into these like tech events and these networking events and be the only Latina. But then we have organizations that are coming together to educate and bring awareness to this huge tech boom that we're seeing. Like, I know Latinas in Tech is a big one. It's national. There's organizations like Techknowledge here local to Miami who's helping, Black and brown people with more, tools and resources. But I have just noticed now that I'm not the only Latina in the room and seeing more people that look like me. And I think that's super exciting because at the end of the day, like, we need to have all voices heard. And in Miami, for example, who's predominantly, a very diverse culture, where the underserved communities here are the ones that are most impacted by things like climate change. Sorry to like bring that in, I'm just like crazy about sustainability, but
I mean, that's your lane, mommy. Talk all
yeah.
about it.
Well, there's things happening here like climate gentrification, where like places like Little Haiti and Overtown are being overdeveloped now because all the millionaires that need to leave South Beach because it's in a flood risk, they're taking higher grounds where the underserved communities are. So, and they don't even know financial literacy in order to know that when they're getting paid out for their lots and their properties and their houses, that it's not enough, and then they have to go more inland, which is more further away from public transportation and opportunities. So for me, just having that representation is so important because we do bring a different viewpoint and different background. So yeah, sorry to go on a tangent, but
No. Actually, this one is something that Raphael mentioned that I want to talk a little bit more about, which is owning the narrative. What are some concrete examples of how you guys individually have used data or insights to shift the perception or create opportunities? And I know all of you individually, so I know all of you have conquered this.
I mean, I think that's just more so honest. In my case, it's always been just psychological. You can understand how someone reacts to you whenever you talk to them. A drastic example that I use to just prove my concept is I tell people, like, if we're in a room, there's like 20 of us, and someone walked in the room with a gun, what would everyone do? There's screaming, there's panic, there's all kinds of stuff that would happen, but you can predict what they would do. Break it down a level to where you can understand how people are going to react to you when you're in a room, or how you're going to be able to be taken. If I go into a Latin community and maybe I don't know how to speak Spanish, maybe that might impact me negatively, that might impact me positively. But the thing is, I think a lot of it is based on psychology and just understanding people. That's how I work things.
So for me, I would say I'm picking back a little bit off the narrative. And it's similar to looking at the education system. When we look at the textbooks in the public school system, what our children are reading is what was determined by someone else that thought that's what our children should learn, right? But in the textbooks, there's so much more history that's missing, and I don't want to get into the political details of that, but we all know that the history of our people, the indigenous communities, aren't really included in there, right? And so with that being said, for me, a big part of making a story for us is Siembra. And the name Siembra actually was born from my grandmother. May she rest in peace. She died about 2 years ago. And growing up and being raised mostly by her, I would always hear her for everything, whether it was good or negative. She always would say, bueno, eso es lo que él sembró, eso es lo que ella sembró, eso es lo que tiene ahora, right? And then I think that even if we look at it, regardless of what country you're from, most likely someone in your family has used the word siembra, o eso es lo que sembró, lo que cosechó, right? And so for our people there's this pride in like, own who you are. This is a seed. What do you want to plant? Do you want to plant hope? Do you want to plant strength? What do you want to do? Because whatever you're going to plant, that's what you're going to get. So in La Siembra, to us, it's always been a part of us. We all come from the land, the earth, and our people. If we look back where we really came from, like at the end of the day, it's like it's within us. And so I think it's a matter of us telling our stories, and we can say it collectively as a community of multiple countries and what we form. But besides that, as individuals, we all have our own story. We have our own siembra. We have our own way of how we want to tell things and what we want people to see as us. And so I think it goes in hand with how I plant myself today, how I show up for myself when no one is looking. So if this morning I woke up at 3 a.m., from 3 to 5 a.m., no one saw me work out, but I did it. I planted that for myself. And now when I show up to this event, my nervous system, my energy is calm and collected because I showed up for myself. I think it's just about how we want to show ourselves, how we want to represent ourselves, and then planting that seed and showing up for yourself. So this really applies to our community, and that's my way. That's my way of us. Hey, this is what we do.
Yadira?
Okay, so just bringing it back to the data, and I love sharing tips and tricks, and that's another thing that I love about the tech communities, that we're just so quick to share resources and like how we're able to grow. But data for me has been instrumental in the things that we do, right? Like, even just to like bring it back to Miami too, like anytime I talk about Biscayne Bay and how it's dying, I also talk about the economic output that it brings Miami. It's 64 billion with a B every year, right? And so I think when it comes to data, we just have to be well versed when we're speaking to people, and making sure obviously that what we're sharing is accurate. But now more than ever is, this information publicly available. And when you make the point around data and these statistics and these case studies and these success stories, and you cover the environmental, the economic, and the social aspect of it, that it just makes people understand things better. And some of it is eye-opening, right? Where when you put things into perspective and talk about, let's say the economy, and you talk about the billions or the millions that are left on the table or wasted, or, it really makes a difference. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Absolutely. And Raphael, sorry.
I mean, the way that I've like kind of used some of the narratives that are out there to like turn it into opportunities, like I use that all the time for WeCheck. I mean, obviously with a lot of things that are going on right now, like there's things that Charlie Kirk got killed, unfortunately. People started celebrating it. I turned it into an opportunity for WeCheck so that I can help companies track those people down, because it's hurting companies that have hired people that are celebrating that stuff and hurting their brands. I've also used situations where like just overall, unfortunately, I'm in the business of bringing up bad news. So I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but like those are the things where I create opportunities. Now, in the past, when I was at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, I used to create content to teach people about finance. And during COVID, a lot of people were scared and they were selling their shares, selling crypto, selling a whole bunch of stuff. And then I started turning that narrative around and started saying, well, when something goes down, it's actually a great time to buy. And so like I started to talk about how, it could be a really, really good wealth generating opportunity for people. And a lot of people did buy when things went down, and eventually they went back up, and it's been going back up since COVID. And I don't know if you guys have seen the charts, but extremely crypto, everything from crypto stocks, real estate, everything has exploded since then. And a lot of people are happy about that. So like, yeah, 100%, you can always turn whatever public narrative is going around into an opportunity for either yourself, your company, your finances, etc.
I know Diana had brought up data, and just a couple of, I guess, little tidbits that right now predominantly non-Latino companies and tech platforms profit from obviously Latino consumers' data engagement, the cultural trends, aka Bad Bunny, while Latinos see minimal ownership in these platforms. But Latino-owned businesses are using AI technology at twice the rate of their white counterparts, and Latino teens and young adults outpace their white peers in the use of AI for information.
That's interesting. That's an interesting statistic, and I think that's because of curiosity. And you know what's interesting is that, so in the Marine Corps there is this statistic that showed that people had never shot a gun before in their life were the expert riflemen when they got out of boot camp. Why? Because of curiosity, because they didn't come in with bad habits. And so what ends up happening, a lot of us, Latinos, we end up coming from households that, like, everybody's working all the time, like their whole family and everything, maybe didn't get the opportunities to go to coding boot camps when they're young or whatever, and get that exposure. And now with these LLMs and everything, you can just put your ideas and you can, like, be creative with it. And for $20 a month, I mean, you could create a whole application, right? And so now that you have this where you can throw your imagination on the table, like, it makes sense, I think, that, like, it allows for all sorts of people that have all these ideas and now have access to actually creating something with it, um, to really take advantage of it. So to me, it makes sense.
Yeah. A couple more fun facts, so we can, because these are some of the topics we already touched base on that I want to expand on, especially AI. But right now, the Hispanic community represents 19% of the U.S. population, with purchasing power of 4.1 trillion as of 2025. It's projected to reach 2.6 trillion by the end of this year, and growth from, like, that's nearly 50% more of that than white households. We also have more than half of the Hispanic population is age 40 and younger, representing the critical demographic for long-term market influence and the future of consumer behavior, which obviously includes AI. Some of the big key issues, and we were talking about this earlier, about, how our countries are all different, and how, even though we're all Latinos, um, some of the AI systems, some of the key issues, and obviously this is where our community, our engineers, our people who are learning all of these trades and skills are going to have to, you know, do that extra step, right, for us. Some of those issues are code switching between English and Spanish, which is one of the most obvious ones. The regional linguistic differences, Spanglish, Caribbean Spanish, Mexican Spanish, Central American Spanish, cultural celebrations beyond stereotypes, quinceañeras, and all of the other cultures and traditions that are now being built by our new generations. Socioeconomic diversity within the Latino communities, second, third, and fourth generation cultural identity.
Man, you gave me some ideas with those statistics. Like, one of the ideas you just gave me right now is, like, somebody should create an LLM wrapper that can help people from different countries, like, speak more fluently to the LLM. So I'll give you an example. You wrap ChatGPT in something that knows more of how, like, an Argentinian will speak, or a Colombian, or someone from Guatemala or Nicaragua or whatever, and you put in the setting, I'm from Nicaragua, and yeah, predominantly Spanish, but also Spanglish. And now the LLM understands that, okay, this person's dialect and all the ways that it's going to talk to me is in this certain way. So now it can start throwing out its ideas and, give the responses more properly based off, like, that person's way of speaking. So that's kind of like the idea that I got from what you just told me, from all these opportunities, because that's huge. What you just said is, like, groundbreaking. I didn't even know those stats.
Well, imagine this. Latino representation in technical AI roles has grown by an impressive 48.7 to 58.7 between 2018 and 2022, which is suggesting the increasing influence on how these systems are being built. Oh, we see a little one in the background, like a true Latino family.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. How do you guys feel about that, with hearing those numbers, that statistics, and how does that affect your work and moving forward?
I missed that last part.
I said, how does all of these statistics kind of relate to where you're working at and how it reflects you moving forward?
It actually relates a lot. Like I had to, so for example, we were working on a deal right now. I can't say too much, but I got invited to Mexico to, speak to the Mexican heads of state regarding like how AI can help national security and things like that, especially with us that we use facial recognition. We can find surface things, potentially find cartel members, right? But they speak differently. They speak completely differently. The people from Mexico, like for example, and they'll say like "ay que pedo," and like in that's like something like something bad happened or whatever. And in Miami, that doesn't, we don't correlate, that phrase the same way. And so like we have to train an AI model to kind of understand the whole dialect and everything to kind of grab that language. And I feel like, what you're throwing out there with the stats just keeps showing me more and more that I'm gonna have to put more resources towards creating those same type of data sets, but for each different culture.
Awesome. Anybody else? Diana?
I was laughing when you said "ay que pedo" because I play soccer in the evenings with a bunch of Honduran friends, and "que pedo" it's for them, it's like "cómo estás?" And I remember the first time I was like "que pedo mine," and so I was laughing because of that. It's really, like it's interesting. But to add on to that, yeah, I see this common thing, and especially in our community, the Hispanic Latin community, and even more with the woman, with the mothers. Whether you're even not even a mother, you could be a single woman with no kids, and of course the men go through this as well. But with that being said, sometimes there is this place of we feel like we are, and most of us are immigrants, myself included. But sometimes there's this thing of, well, I'm somewhere and I'm not supposed to be there. However, who we are is who we are, regardless of what country or where in the world we go. So sometimes, especially here in the USA, we are here feeling like we're the infiltrators. And I don't want to get into the whole political thing of what's happening, but even besides that, oftentimes we belittle ourselves a little bit, where we call it being humble. And we position ourselves in places where it's like, oh, it's okay because I have it better here than I did in Nicaragua, or because I had it better than where I was at, or it's because whatever it may be, right? And so I think it's important for people in general, but most importantly, I say in our community, where we've forgotten the true warriors and the blood that we have within us. And so I think it's a matter where people, we show up for ourselves, and then we decide, okay, so now this is who I want to be, and regardless of whatever room or what location I'm at, this is who I am. And so oftentimes that, enforcing our identity, embracing our culture biases, our difference, our accents, our tongues, our dialects. And so that for me is where I do see the biggest thing, where we're struggling with ourselves, and we hide a little bit, we shy from our culture because we're scared, where we are a little, what other people are going to think, or are they going to look down on me because I'm a Latina and my accent is probably too strong or different for them. And so that's a lot where I see it, whether you're a founder, or just a mother, or just anyone, a student. It's a common thing that we go through.
All right. That actually brings me to, I mean, it's my next point. I don't know if Yadira and Renee had anything to add to that topic.
Not me.
Okay. The next point, which is something piggybacking off Diana, is the authenticity tax. What is the balance between cultural authenticity and commercial viability? And do we have to choose?
I think you don't have to choose, because I know that my accent, my tongue, my experiences, my culture, my upbringing definitely brings something different to the table. My grit, the person I am, the way I think, the way I function, the
Yes.
woman I am today is because of all the women that came before me, my mother, my grandmother, and so on. And one important thing that in our culture we do is that we may be a little all over the place when it comes to us trying to find opportunities. We'll go wherever we go. I mean, I have family in Spain, in Germany, everywhere, and everybody's just trying to improve themselves. But most importantly, wherever we go, we're still ourselves. I've been here in Miami, USA for about 25 years now, going on 26. And my accent is the same as the day I got here when I was 6 years old. And it's like, I'm not going to get rid of it because I am continuing to mix with my people. I am continuing and reminding myself of who I am. So I don't really think you have to choose. I think I can be myself, who I am, how I look, how I sound, and still have a beautiful mind, brain that can solve, bring solutions, and do whatever it is I set myself up to. I hope that
Awesome.
answers the question.
It does.
I would love to add to that too.
Please.
By the way, Diana, that was amazing. Yes, people need to hear that more often because people do tend to shy away from, being authentic. And I think in this era of AI and the fact that Sora 2 just came out and the content that these AIs are generating is, I mean, it's even hard to differentiate whether it's real or not. I actually had this crazy idea of creating AI influencers. And when I've been kind of just like talking to people about it, they're like, no, you need to be authentic. These younger generations are being able to just notice if it's AI right away. And authenticity is something that is going to be yearned for once my brother calls it the dead internet, where there's going to be more bots and stuff on as users on the internet than there is actual real humans. So I think being authentic is so important. And for me, at least when like building out my startup, it's been 2.5 years, and me being my authentic self has gotten that approval. Even in the rooms that like have some of the biggest people in Miami, they know when I'm coming, right? Because I am just myself, and I'm not one to just kiss ass. Sorry to curse, but
No.
it's just it is what it is, and I've been really successful by just being authentically myself. And so I suggest anyone to just continue to be real and raw, because people are more than ever looking for that.
Absolutely. I think that as Latinos, we that the authenticity, our vulnerability, our strength, our traditions, it's like those are our superpowers. Let's be real. We're a set of like superhuman, mutant superheroes over here. And it's exciting that, we talk about this unity. We talk about, we're all different, but we can come together. And I think that for a long time, there wasn't that. There was a lot of within each community or culture that there was like Dominicans didn't like Puerto Ricans, Argentinians don't like Colombians, Colombians don't like anybody, Costa Ricans don't like Nicaraguenses, Mexicans are superior to everybody. Like, and obviously you see that kind of being broken down little by little, right? We have to dig through that pile and keep, and a great example of that is these sessions here at Techqueria, where we're all different backgrounds, and we're all uniting. We're all having similar issues, but also finding great solutions, which I think is so important. That it's like, cool, we have problems. We all know we have these problems, So like, for you guys, when was it, because you guys are such in very different lanes, when was it for you? Because not everybody started in tech, right? I don't think I think this generation could say that, but I don't think our generation can say that we like, oh, I wanted to be a tech person. I want to be a founder. Like, no, it wasn't that, that kind of came across our board. So where did you guys see that pivot for yourselves? In the like, okay, esta es la vida que tengo, right? This is what my parents told me I should do. I'm gonna be a doctor, teacher, lawyer, any of the above, get a 9 to 5, get benefits. That's, get married, have kids, do the regular scheduled programming. And here we are, being who we are, being game changers, shakers, movers, disturbing the peace in a good way. It's like, hey, we're here. So when was that pivot for you guys in your transition into tech?
Well, I guess I'll talk about mine because mine was kind of more recent. So mine happened because of the pandemic. Back then, when the pandemic was happening, I was just a regular dude. I did food catering. I did food catering for just different people, and I would that's what I did. That's how I made my money. Not very much money, but that's what I made. What eventually happened was because of the pandemic, I couldn't do my job anymore. No one would hire me. No one would do that. I sent out 1,500 job applications. No one would go and ever hire me. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go and like, well, let me go and just learn some kind of skills so well that someone eventually will have to hire me. Fun fact, never ended up happening. I ended up just building my own career. I ended up just building shit out of anger. And out of that anger, I was given opportunities to go and take it further. And with those opportunities came wins at hackathons, came awards from different award shows, and just me having now clients that pay me on like a bad month, like 5K, on a good month, like 20K. And that's pretty good for a solo developer. But I'm seeing that like mine was just like out of pure necessity. I was angry, and I didn't want to go and be that person that people were like, oh, Renee couldn't do it because he wasn't cut for it because I'm not from here. So that was my turning point.
Awesome.
For me, I felt like I lost my sense of purpose when I was at the bank. Like I was making great money, bought a house in Miami, had like my wife was stay at home. I was like able to provide everything, right? But I didn't. I felt like that sense of purpose that I had in the Marine Corps was gone. Like it was all money, 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 and I was always surrounding myself about money, 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 people with money, 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 Lambos, all that stuff. And I'm like, man, is this what it's all about? And I actually left my job at Bank of America Merrill Lynch 1 week before COVID even closed the country. I didn't even know COVID was going to close the
Wow.
country. Yeah, and which was a shock when that happened. But I left so that I could follow a passion, something that could impact more people, right? And eventually, it led me down to this road where I started my own startup a couple years ago. But yeah, that was how I started my journey, looking for that purpose and impact that I can cause, a legacy essentially.
Love that. Yadira?
Yeah, I could probably say the same, Raphael, where it was when I moved here during the pandemic to Miami and I was doing real estate. And I just wanted to be part of the community and find my people. And I've always been passionate about sustainability. And it really led me down this path where I then decided to start my startup. And it's really finding your people that will elevate you and support you and talk about you in rooms that you're not in that really make all the difference. So, I'm huge on LinkedIn, on connecting with people that I don't even know. But then I'm connected and then they'll accept my request. And now I can, get into a DM for the chief sustainability officer at Google and she'll read my message and reply and connect me with others. And so, really, again, going back to authenticity and just being yourself and being so delusional about what your purpose is it really makes all the difference, and people feel that, right? And they get energy off of that, and then now you're creating lasting impact and a legacy, right? And I think at the end of the day, we all want to give back and do something positive. It feels good, and I owe it all to Miami and where I'm at today from moving here. And really, this is the third time I've lived here. I always say it's the third time's a charm because, yeah, Miami historically has been known for partying, but now, we might be a blue zone and, the eyes are on us because we're ground zero for climate change. And so, what we're doing here, we're becoming trailblazers and leading by example. And again, we're so lucky to have so much diversity here, where, we all play a big part in it. So community, community, community.
I love that. And talking about community, part of our community is our villages, our personal villages, our direct family, our immediate friends. Um, One of the things that I find interesting and that I like to ask people is, how do you explain tech to your parents or to the leadership of your life, and explain this concept of, hey, I'm investing my time, my energy, my resources into something that might not bring me money right away. So, and they obviously, but I love what I'm doing. I'm building something bigger, and there is a long-term investment in this, right? because we see that a lot of parents kind of shut down when they don't get the norm, the tradition, the normal life, and you're over here struggling. Who wants to kick that one off?
I actually I want to hear everyone else's response to this, because my parents think I'm nuts. They think I'm crazy for letting go of a really good job and all that to do this. So I would love to hear everybody's response.
I think I didn't have anything really going for me in the first place. So my family figured out that like I'm actually making money, I'm surviving, and I'm sustainable, and I'm just doing it myself, and no one's caring. They kind of got off my back. I remember my dad for many years. He was like, Renee, how are you going to go and make money? Are you going to go rob a bank? I'm like, well, no, clearly I'm not going to do that. But what do you, I'm not, I can't just go and make like $20 an hour or something and just do this. I'm going to end up like you, not being able to do anything, always stuck, not having any money. This is my opportunity. And then I also explain like in a more simpler sense that like think about like what this automation can. So I can make it simple. Like if you have, let's say, a company and it does whatever, and you have like 100 employees, and let's say for some reason you have software that makes it to where you can do the same amount of work with, let's say, 10 people, scale that to that 100 people. You can now go and give your company like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars more to actually expand on. And once you start like explaining like, look, this thing, instead of you doing it manually, this robot does it and you click a button, he's a little bit more happier with it. So yeah, it's kind of weird.
So for me, as the eldest daughter, I came to this country when I was about 6, and my mom somehow thought I was a lawyer, doctor, everything. Like, oh, he translate this, do this, and I'm like 6 years old. So it's now looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm so independent. I know how to do all this stuff, right? But when it comes to just tech in general, I always tell my mom my favorite catchphrase is, "Ma, te va a hacer la vida más fácil." For in English, mom, is gonna make your life easier, because you can work hard. No one is saying don't work hard. We all know working hard where it can take you, but work smart. Because if you're just going really hard in circles, you're just gonna and burn yourself out. If you're going very smart and you're working hard, your results are gonna triple. Like God knows to where, right? Depending on what you're doing. But with that being said, yeah, every time I introduce any new tech, I always tell my mom, mira, te va a hacer la vida más fácil, aprende, no soy eterna. Meaning like, hey, do this, it's make your life easier, and I'm not gonna be here forever. But with that being said, for me, the way I explain Siembra to my family, I was actually, they've been very supportive. My mom said that when I first told her about it, she says that that same day she went to church and the pastor was talking about la siembra and how you are what you plant and you will reap how you show up for yourself. So since day one, every time I'm out, tengo que hacer esto para la siembra, she said, okay, dale, dale, go, go, go. Because she, thank God for her pastor. I got to get him something. But with that being said, I was like, she believes that I'm very proud of like my mom supported me. She believes because of the pastor said, like she's like, tú tienes algo. She's like, you're gonna do something, because when my grandmother was dying, she went through cancer 3 times. Wow. And cancer did not take her out. It was the chemo. But I remember that as her body just, she by now she was in bed rest. But my grandmother, who had 10 kids and raised them by herself in the time of communism, which is still in Nicaragua, she was asking me if everybody ate. 5 minutes after that, she passed away. But she made sure, and I was like, see, mamita, no, I want you to go check. She was using her last energy to snap on me that I needed to go check that everybody ate. And I pretended to go outside and came back in. And I was like, yeah, everybody ate. Trust me, trust me. And she's like, okay, now I can go. Everybody's good. And my story behind this is that from the time I was 4 years old, I have memory. I would always remember my grandma when no one was around. She would whisper with her voice, and I could hear it out where it was, I want to die. I want to die. And unconsciously, she was constantly saying that. Well, guess what? She still lived 27, 28 years after that. But she was telling herself that so much, and she was the last thing she prioritized every day. I mean, sometimes she didn't even prioritize herself at the end of the day. If someone was passing by, and I know this is very common in our Hispanic things that, we servicial, we offer people a food, we offer them drinks, something, right? When they come to our home, she would take the food on her plate and give it to someone and say, no, I already ate. And me as a kid watching her, and I'm like, no, you didn't. I just saw you were about to eat. And so I always was seen as defiant to the adults, as what a lot of people will be like, "Oh, tú solo contestas." You, but I'm like, but it's right what I'm saying, though, right? So you should prioritize yourself. And so my grandmother is always here, like a third eye on top of my mind every single time. And I always told myself, I'm going to prioritize myself. And now that I have two kids, I prioritize myself like there's no tomorrow. If I can prioritize myself when my kids get home today, when I pick them up from school, you know what? I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be more centered. I'm going to feel happier, and I'm going to be a better mother for them because now I'm creating their experience. The same way I have this story I tell about my mom, my grandmother, they're going to tell a story about me, and our kids are watching us. So for me, is instead of whatever it is, I'm going to prioritize myself, and I'm showing my kids so they know, hey, you come first. And believe it or not, by me prioritizing myself, my family, my kids, every single person in my life, including my business, Siembra, I show up so much better for my team because my mind is clearer, because I know what I got to do, because I showed up for myself, and there now I can think for what's next. But it's hard to think when our body's shaking. Maybe we're starving into 3, 5 p.m. Why? Can you make a really clear decision if you haven't ate till like 5, 6 p.m.? If you're running on just coffee all day? Mind you, I'm not judging y'all because that was me. So with that being said, that's really my story behind Siembra, and that's how I choose to approach it. It's here to make our lives easier. Yeah, everything that's on the internet, it's up to you what you engage with
You
at the
do.
end of the day.
Well, quickly, because we're about to wrap up
Yes,
in a little
that's pretty much it at the end of the day.
So Yadira and Raphael, real quick.
So I was told to go to the corporate route, and it was the safe route. And my dad just did that, right? Just out of love and making sure that I, was set. And then I did that and then realized that it was just not my path. And so doing real estate was what basically was my way of like being independent and just running like my own schedule. But my dad is 18 years older than my mom. So there's a huge gap there where my dad was still using MapQuest to like get places. We'd have to like print it out for the directions for him. And he just he's not tech savvy whatsoever. However, my mom, kind of like Diana, how you say it like makes their life better, where when I show her how easy it is to use, and think about the iPhone, I mean, kids can navigate through iPhones just because of how friendly the interface is, where I always tell people to talk to your ChatGPT. Like you want to talk about working smarter. For me, typing everything and having to figure out what the best prompt is more time consuming than just having a conversation with my ChatGPT and just literally dumping everything and letting it workshop what I'm saying. And so I think just seeing the excitement on my mom's face, like recently I told her that the iPhone had a new update and she calls me and she's like, oh my God, everything is different. And seeing that excitement from kids too and younger generations, and the statistics that you shared, Jayla, on how we're using more AI than anybody else is really exciting for me, because it's just going to give us really just so much power to really do anything and everything. Like now is the easiest time. Sam Altman says that they're like, it's just a ticking time bomb before one person has $1 billion company and it's just them running the whole company, right? And so I think the opportunities now are endless with AI. And we do have a lot of resources and a lot of funding and a lot of grants and accelerator programs that are focused on Latinos that we have to find ourselves, because no one's going to do it for us. But again, I think, and to be honest, Gradable would not be where it is today if it wasn't for AI. And to just say this, it's almost counterintuitive because AI is really energy and water intensive. I mean, there's literally towns with data centers that are running out of water because of these data centers. So just saying that out loud almost like sometimes gives me this cringe, like sick feeling, because we're trying to reduce environmental impact in the work that we do, but I use AI every day, all day. However, I know the World Economic Forum came out with this article that if we start using AI for good, then yeah, we'll be better off, because it is being used a lot for bad stuff, right? I mean, you hear about people getting calls and grandmothers are getting taken advantage of, or parents because they think their kids are unsafe and it's just crazy what's happening. But again, if we use technology and AI for good, then it's going to make all the difference, and it's easier than ever to use now.
Awesome. And Raphael?
like I said before, my parents think I'm crazy because I left a really good job, but I also remind them, like, just like I overcame, a lot of other things. And so I'll give you an example. Like when I first got the banking job, before getting that, they told me, "Oh, apply to be a teller first. Start from the bottom like that." And I said, I didn't go to college to go become a teller. I'm sorry. Like, so I got a good internship at Goldman Sachs 2000 Small Businesses. I ended up getting an interview with Merrill Lynch, became a financial advisor trainee. I overcame, and I used that ambition, and I started going boom, 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 got promoted every single year. And I reminded them, it's like, you thought I made it then. Watch in a few years how far I'm going to make it with
Yeah.
WeCheck, my startup. Like, just chill. Just watch me do it, and my family's never going to go hungry. If I have to go drive Uber, which I've had to do after, imagine all the things I've already done, right? Coming from those ivory towers, in order to like feed my family. There's been times I've had to go in my car and drive some Uber. It is what it is. Even though I'm a founder of this company, my family will never go hungry, and that's all they care about is their nietos.
Yep.
so so my family will never go hungry. I'm still gonna hustle, and I'm gonna make it happen. So that's what I tell them, but they still think I'm crazy.
I totally get it. I just wanted to say, thank you guys so much for being on this panel with me. I didn't even cover half of my notes because we could probably do this for a week straight and still have things to talk about. So I want to thank you for your time and for your expertise, and wish everybody the best of luck with everything moving forward. I will see some of you guys on Tuesday. And thank you guys for everything. For those in the chat, just some next steps, practical action, attendees can take. Really simple stuff, I think, is always a good reminder. Following specific creators, demanding equity in your deals. I think that's super important. And just continue to learn, financial literacy. If you are interested in coding, at one point, we were all coders for MySpace and nobody knew it. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Techqueria and the entire team and staff for having us a part of this amazing summit. And don't, for everybody listening, stay tuned. The summit is going to be going, and there's plenty of breakout rooms and sessions. Thanks, guys.